Welcome to Rise and Thrive Stories. Stories that inspire us all, and this is today's story.
The storm rolled quietly across the Chicago skyline that night, the kind of slow-moving front that seemed to echo the tension building inside Ethan Hale's chest. He sat alone in his small apartment, surrounded by the remnants of a life he once believed was certain: coffee-stained notebooks, half-sketched product designs, and a laptop screen glowing with code he had poured his soul into. Outside, the city was restless. Car horns bled into the hum of streetlights flickering against the rain. But inside, Ethan felt a calm before the chaos. He didn't know it yet, not fully, but something was coming. Something that would crack the foundation of everything he trusted. His phone buzzed on the table. A message. A link. One click. One moment. One betrayal that would change the course of his life. Ethan stared at the screen, breath tightening as the betrayal unfolded in real time. His best friend, Mason Ward, smiling in a press photo beneath a headline that should have been Ethan's. The software Ethan built. The dream they shared. Now stolen. Public. Celebrated. Thunder rumbled in the distance as Ethan's world began to collapse. And yet, somewhere deep inside him, beneath the shock, the grief, and the rising fury, something else stirred. A spark. A promise. A beginning. Before getting into the story, let's subscribe to this channel first, and mention which city or country you are watching from. Here is the story. Ethan tried to fight back. He hired a lawyer, but the legal fees drained the little savings he had. Mason had covered his tracks, documents signed under Ethan's trusting nose, quiet ownership transfers, and timestamps that made Mason seem like the rightful founder. Ethan was painted as the disgruntled friend who claimed credit after the fact. Meanwhile, Mason's startup WardTrack exploded in popularity. His face was on tech blogs, praised as the next brilliant entrepreneur. Investors flocked to him. Ethan watched from the sidelines, his stomach twisting each time Mason smiled for a camera. People didn't see the truth. People didn't know the cost. Ethan fell into depression. His days became a blur of rejection emails from tech jobs, late rent notices, and quiet nights staring at the ceiling. Friends he once considered close drifted toward Mason's growing spotlight, leaving Ethan to fade into silence. He felt like he was drowning in a world that had moved on without him. And then came the foreclosure notice on his apartment. Standing among half-packed boxes, Ethan realized he had hit rock bottom. There was nothing left to lose, only something left to rebuild. Ethan moved to Denver, crashing on his cousin's couch. The fresh mountain air felt unfamiliar but healing. He took a part-time warehouse job to stay afloat, ironic, considering his dream had been to revolutionize logistics. Still, the physical work grounded him. It reminded him that he wasn't broken, not completely. One late shift, while scanning inventory, he noticed inefficiencies everywhere: broken scanners, outdated systems, sluggish processes. The same problems he once dreamed of fixing. Something flickered inside him. A tiny spark, almost too faint to notice. But it was there. Ethan began taking notes again. He sketched new designs, better than the old ones. He mapped out solutions the industry desperately needed, ideas Mason had never understood deeply enough to steal. Ethan was rediscovering himself piece by piece, night by night. One day, a co-worker named Lily Carter noticed him scribbling on a clipboard during break. She was sharp, witty, and carried a warmth he hadn't felt in years. She asked what he was building, and for the first time since the betrayal, Ethan shared his ideas with someone. Lily didn't laugh or dismiss him. She listened and believed in him. Lily introduced Ethan to a small local incubator that supported underfunded creators. The place was humble: recycled furniture, faulty coffee machines, but the mentors were real, the community supportive. Ethan pitched his new vision, TrueLogix, a smarter and more transparent logistics platform. His voice trembled as he presented, but his passion was undeniable. Unlike the polished investors Mason flashed before, these people cared about substance. Ethan walked out of the meeting with a modest grant and workspace access, not much, but enough to begin. Ethan worked tirelessly. He coded through the nights, surviving on vending machine snacks and cheap coffee. Lily often joined him, bringing real food and reminding him to rest. Their partnership deepened, first as collaborators, then as something quieter, gentler. She saw the man behind the broken pieces and helped him rediscover the fire within. Months passed. TrueLogix evolved into something powerful, something Mason could never replicate. Ethan's determination carved a new path, built not from bitterness but from resilience. He was rising not to defeat Mason, but to reclaim himself. He started distancing himself from Lily, ashamed of dragging her into his struggle. Their closeness began to fray. Late nights were spent alone again, battling burnout, fear, and the haunting memory of Mason's betrayal. Ethan worried he was repeating the same mistakes, trusting too deeply, risking too much. Lily confronted him one evening, frustrated and hurt. She demanded honesty, not silence. Ethan broke down, admitting he feared losing everything again, including her. Lily held him tightly and whispered that she wasn't going anywhere. It was the first time Ethan cried openly since Chicago. Their bond strengthened, forged in vulnerability rather than ambition. And with renewed emotional strength, Ethan pushed forward. TrueLogix finally landed its first major client, a regional delivery company desperately seeking efficiency. Ethan poured everything into the project. The software worked flawlessly, beyond expectations. Word spread. New clients followed. For the first time in years, Ethan felt hope that wasn't fragile. The startup grew, slowly but surely. Ethan hired a small team, many from underappreciated backgrounds like himself. He became not just a founder but a mentor, determined never to repeat Mason's selfish path. His leadership style was raw but real. As TrueLogix expanded, so did Ethan's relationship with Lily. They shared victories, setbacks, and quiet morning coffees. She challenged him, supported him, and saw the world the same way he did, imperfect, yet full of opportunity. And then, one morning, Ethan woke to headlines he never expected: WardTrack was collapsing. WardTrack's downfall was dramatic. Reports surfaced of faulty software, data breaches, angry clients, and investors pulling out. Mason had expanded too fast with a product he barely understood. The sharks he once impressed were now devouring him. Ethan watched the news with mixed emotions. There was no satisfaction in seeing Mason destroyed, only a hollow ache. The man he once loved like a brother had become a stranger trapped in his own ambition. Betrayal had consumed him just as deeply as it had wounded Ethan. Mason reached out. At first with emails, then voicemails. Apologies, please, fragments of a man drowning. Ethan ignored them. He had moved forward, and Mason was part of the past he no longer needed to carry. But when Mason showed up in Denver unexpectedly, Ethan felt old wounds reopen. Mason arrived at the TrueLogix office unannounced, thinner than Ethan remembered, and carrying invisible weight. Security nearly escorted him out, but Ethan agreed to speak with him briefly. They stood face to face in a conference room, years of unspoken pain between them. Mason confessed everything: how greed poisoned him, how he justified stealing Ethan's idea, how success felt hollow without the friendship he destroyed. He asked for forgiveness, not partnership, not money, just forgiveness. Ethan trembled with anger and sorrow. He remembered sleepless nights, eviction notices, and the humiliation of being discarded. Mason's apology couldn't erase any of it. But Ethan also saw a man who was finally broken enough to understand what he had done. He didn't forgive him, not fully. But he released the weight. "You don't get to rewrite what happened," Ethan said softly. "But I won't carry your mistakes anymore." Mason left in silence, and Ethan felt strangely lighter. TrueLogix entered its next phase, nationwide expansion. Media outlets highlighted Ethan's resilience, framing him as the founder who built success from ashes. He received speaking invitations, new investors, and partnerships he once thought unreachable. At a tech summit in San Francisco, Ethan presented TrueLogix to a packed auditorium. When he walked onto the stage, ovation thundered around him. He wasn't the broken man Mason had tried to erase. He was the author of his own success story. Lily watched proudly from the front row. After the event, Ethan proposed to her in the middle of the empty auditorium, standing beneath bright stage lights and the faint echo of applause. It was messy, imperfect, and unmistakably real, just like their journey. With Lily at his side and TrueLogic's thriving, Ethan knew he had finally built a life that Betrayal couldn't touch. Years later, TrueLogic's became one of the most trusted logistics platforms in the country. Ethan was admired not just for his innovation but for his integrity. His company culture emphasized empathy, fairness, and second chances, values forged in the fires of betrayal. Ethan occasionally thought about Mason. Not with anger, but with understanding. They had both been shaped by their choices, but Ethan had chosen growth over revenge, compassion over bitterness. That choice became the legacy of TrueLogic's. Lily and Ethan built a family, a home, and a future defined by love and resilience. Their story wasn't perfect, but it was honest. And it was theirs. One evening, standing on a Denver rooftop overlooking the city lights, Ethan realized the truth. Betrayal didn't break him, it transformed him. And his greatest victory was not success, but becoming someone he could finally be proud of.
Thank you for watching. But don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more inspiring stories.